My name is Holly, and this is my anxiety chapter. I was challenged to describe a positive change that I've made in my life, and this is what I've had to say. Now, I almost titled this 3 Years Sober, but I felt that would be very disrespectful to someone to compare my choice to no longer consume alcohol with someone who had to claw their way out of addiction. Yet, in my own personal thoughts, I do consider myself sober. Not because I had to, quote, get sober, but because I recognize that if I'm not careful, someday that likely would be my battle. I've always had the temptation to drink when I was struggling, especially in my early 20s, before I was brave enough to get on antidepressants for a while, or broken enough, depending on how you look at things. I went through some rough times, and I always had this voice saying to me, hey, just get drunk after you put your son to bed and you won't feel anything anymore. But I was always afraid to drink alone. I think I even knew back then how dangerous that act could be for me. I did eventually start to allow myself to have wine coolers or some cheap Boone's Farm in the house, but even then, I just didn't enjoy being the only person drinking. It didn't bring me joy, and I wasn't relaxed. I just felt like there was no point. So I wouldn't drink alone anymore. And on the flip side, I was also super paranoid about drinking around people that I didn't know or trust very well. Then one day I was having some drinks with friends, and I felt that first little tingle of a buzz, and I just felt so terrible. My brain was in overdrive, questioning how I would be able to drive, wondering how much food and time I needed to be okay. I didn't feel sedate or chill. It was quite the opposite. And honestly, my alcohol tolerance was so low that I'd be feeling the effects but not be anywhere near that .08. The idea of letting down my control and relaxing was just downright terrifying. I needed to be in full control of my faculties. I didn't really see it back then, but this really was the start of my anxiety journey. I could still have a drink when out, but I found myself being so careful, making sure I was limiting and monitoring myself. And honestly, I would have likely had a better time drinking Dr. Peppers than anything alcoholic. The last drink I had was a Mike's Hard Lemonade in October 2021. It was at a little small town bar, and we were celebrating a friend getting married. 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital with my liver and kidneys shutting down due to COVID. Now, it wasn't the bar that I got COVID from, nor was it the 2 drinks that led to my organs going into distress. But I nearly died. They said if I had waited another day to call an ambulance, I may not be here sharing this story. And if I had survived, they said I would have ended up with permanent damage. Now, I was released from the hospital on a Monday afternoon, weak and with a grocery bag of prescriptions to help me continue my recovery. I was to see my doctor on Thursday to get lab work to make sure that my liver especially was keeping up. I saw the doctor that morning, and just the trip 5 minutes to the clinic and the half hour I was there and 5 minutes home, I was completely wiped out. I came home and slept for 6 hours. I woke up to find a message through the MyChart from the doctor questioning my test results. She basically accused me of drinking before I came in that morning. I was so hurt and angry. Here I was, so grateful to be alive, and the emergency room doctors and the ICU staff that put hours to stabilize me, and then days getting me well enough to get out of critical care. Well, not once did any of them accuse me of being a drunk. Needless to say, I didn't go to the next follow-up lab appointment. I replied, telling her to compare my results with what the hospital sent her on Monday, and that I would be finding another doctor. She did reply that comparing the results, there are improvements, but there were no apologies. So I ghosted the next appointment. I don't really know how that interaction made such an impact to just make the choice not to consume alcohol ever again. Now, at first, I thought it was temporary as my body recovered. But as time continues on, I just have no desire to drink. But every once in a while, that little demon will come back saying I could numb myself in a bottle. But I can't give in. I know now, with my cycles of depression and now this almost crippling anxiety, I can't allow myself to venture down that path. If I did, I could very easily end up out of control and needing to fight my way out of the darkness of addiction. I've watched too many people I love struggle to come back from booze and or pills. I've lost family I love due to the darkness of depression. And the first time I actually said the words to others was 2 years ago. I had not been in a situation with alcohol present, so I had never really thought about the fact that I simply stopped drinking until it came out of my mouth so naturally. And it felt good to make that declaration. I was at a work dinner party where wine was available for the Shabbat blessings. Now, I work for a Messianic organization. A coworker was running over to grab the wine cups, and I asked for juice as I don't drink. Honestly, I'd kind of expected people to ask why. I expected more of a reaction or questions on if I was an addict or if it was religious purposes, or from those who know me from days I did indulge to question me on it. But I found typically people are just accepting. If they have questions, they keep them to themselves. And I do surround myself with people who are understanding, so I've never had to feel like a buzzkill Bertha. I have juice or soda, and they have whatever tickles their fancy. And we're just happy to be spending time together. And I have no issues with others who drink. My own son wants me to be his designated driver for his 21st birthday at this little Irish pub. But the best choice and the most positive change in my life would be to live a sober life.